they buried her alive, because she did not laugh at her brother's wedding. Her own mother poured the first handful of soil onto her chest. Her father watched and said nothing. And as the earth closed over her face, the girl made a sound nobody in that village had ever heard a size human being make before. A sound like something ancient waking up. What they did not know, what none of them knew, was that this girl had been laughing her whole life, just not where anyone could hear it. Today you will find out what happens when a village decides that a person's pain is not allowed to exist. But first, hit that subscribe button, smash the like, drop a comment, and tell me where you're watching from tonight. I want to see how far this one travels. Now, let's go back to the village of Ilesa, where laughter was law and silence was a death sentence. In Ilesa, laughter was not just an emotion, it was proof. When a child was born, the midwives did not wait for the first cry, they waited for the first laugh. A baby who laughed within its first 3 days was blessed by Olurumbi, the god of joy. A baby who took longer was watched carefully, and a baby who never laughed at all, that baby was marked. In Ilesa, you laughed at weddings to bless the union. You laughed at the birth of a child to welcome its spirit. You laughed even at funerals, a specific ritual laugh, 3 short bursts, to tell the dead that their life had been worth celebrating and that the living were not afraid to carry on without them. People who could not laugh were not just strange, they were dangerous. It was believed that a joyless person could curdle milk, wither crops, and draw sickness into a house simply by standing in it. This is the story of a girl named Yemisi, who had not laughed since she was 6 years old. Yemisi's older brother, Tokunbo, was getting married on the first dry morning of the harvest season. The whole village gathered. Drummers came from 3 towns away. The bride wore beads that had belonged to 4 generations of women before her. Yemisi stood at the edge of the crowd in her best wrapper, 17 years old, small-boned, with eyes that always looked like they were listening to something no one else could hear. When the priest joined her brother's hands to the bride's, the entire square erupted in laughter, the traditional blessing laugh, loud and bright and rolling over the crowd like thunder. Yemisi opened her mouth. She wanted to laugh. She needed to. Her chest felt like it was full of stones, stacked one on top of another. Her jaw ached from trying, but nothing came out. Not a sound. Her older sister Bisi noticed first. "Laugh, Yemisi," she hissed. "Everyone is watching." Yemisi tried again. She thought of her brother as a boy, teaching her to whistle. She thought of the way he used to carry her on his shoulders through the yam fields. Her heart was laughing. Her face was stone. The whispers started before the drums even stopped. Look at her. Not even a smile for her own brother. That girl has no joy in her. Something is wrong with that one. Their father, a proud man with a voice like a slamming door, turned and saw his daughter's blank face in the middle of his son's wedding. His jaw tightened, and then, the worst thing happened. Yemisi's eyes filled with tears, not because she was sad in that moment, but because 11 years of held-in grief had finally found a crack to leak through. One tear slid down her cheek in the middle of the loudest, happiest laugh Ilesa had heard all year. The square went silent. "She weeps at a wedding," someone said. "She curses the marriage with her tears." "Witch," said another voice. "That girl is a witch." That night, after the wedding fires had burned down to embers, Yemisi's 3 older siblings came to her sleeping mat. Tokunbo, the groom, his joy from the morning curdled into something cold. Missy, sharp-tongued and quick to anger. And Femi, the middle brother, who was not cruel by nature, but had never once, in his whole life, said no to Bisi. "Get up," Bisi said. "We are going to the old quarry." "Why?" Yemisi whispered. "Because," Tokunbo said, gripping her arm harder than he needed to. "You have shamed this family for the last time." They walked her through the sleeping village, past the drums stacked and silent, out to the abandoned stone quarry where their grandfather used to cut rock. There was a deep pit at the bottom, dug for foundation stone years ago and never filled in. "Please," Yemisi said. "I tried. I wanted to laugh." "You cried," Bisi spat. "At a wedding. Do you know what people are saying about us tonight?" "Maybe," Tokunbo said, and his voice cracked in a way that almost sounded like grief. "If you spend a few nights down there in the dark, something in you will finally loosen." Femi looked away. "Tokunbo, maybe we shouldn't." "Hold her arm," Bisi snapped, and Femi did. They pushed her in. Yemisi fell into darkness and hit stone at the bottom. The air knocked clean out of her. Above her, 3 faces blotted out the stars for a moment. Then someone dragged a wooden cover over the opening, and the world went black. And for the first time in 11 years, in the pitch dark, completely alone, Yemisi began to laugh. It came up out of her, like something that had been trapped and was finally allowed to run. She laughed until she cried, and cried until she laughed again, and the sound bounced off the stone walls and came back to her from every direction, as if the pit itself was laughing with her. When she finally went quiet, spent and hollow, a voice spoke from the dark. "So you can make a sound after all." Yemisi pressed herself against the cold wall. "Who's there?" "The better question," the voice said, dry as rustling husks, "is what kind of family throws a girl into a hole for crying at a wedding?" Something moved in the shadows, an old woman, but wrong. Her skin had the gray sheen of wet ash. Where her eyes should have been, there was only a soft, colorless light. Her feet hovered an inch above the quarry floor. "I am not going to hurt you," the spirit said, reading the fear on Yemisi's face. "I have been trapped in this stone since before your grandfather's grandfather was born. This quarry was cut through my resting place. Every time someone digs here, they wake me up a little more, and every time no one comes, I go back to sleep a little more alone." "Are you going to kill me?" Yemisi asked. The old woman laughed, a sound like pebbles shaken in a gourd. "Kill you? Child, I want to help you. I know what it costs to carry joy. Nobody will let you show. I carried mine for 60 years before anyone in my village called me anything but that miserable old woman." She extended a hand, fingers long and cracked like dry riverbed clay. "I can give you a gift. Every laugh you swallow, every joy you're forced to hide, I can turn it into something the world cannot ignore. When you are happy, and no one will let you show it, the wind will carry your laughter for miles. When you are relieved, the birds will sing until dawn. When you are overjoyed and made to stay silent, the earth itself will celebrate for you, whether the village wants it to or not." "That sounds like it could get out of control," Yemisi said. "It will," the spirit agreed. "That is the nature of anything kept locked away for too long. But no one will ever again stand in front of you and pretend your joy doesn't exist. What do you want in exchange?" "One promise. When you have finally laughed all the laughter you have been owed, come back to this quarry and set me free." Yemisi thought of her siblings' faces disappearing above the pit. She thought of a lifetime of being told her joy wasn't loud enough, wasn't the right shape, wasn't believable. "I accept," she said. The spirit's cold hand closed around hers, and something rushed into Yemisi's chest like wind filling a sail. Her eyes began to glow with that same soft, colorless light. When she opened her mouth, sound came pouring out of her, not words, but a rolling, cascading laugh, so large it didn't seem to belong to one small girl at the bottom of a pit. The stone walls of the quarry began to hum and crack. "Remember," the spirit's voice echoed, already fading, "joy this size does not ask permission. Use it wisely, or it will shake apart everything it touches." Then she was gone, and the ground beneath Yemisi's feet was already beginning to tremble. Natural break for a like comment / prompt. Before I keep going, are you feeling this one? Hit like, subscribe, if you're new, and tell me, have you ever had to hide your joy because someone else decided it wasn't appropriate? I read every comment. By sunrise, the quarry wall had split open, and Yemisi walked out into the pale morning light with her eyes still faintly glowing. Every step she took, the ground beneath her seemed to loosen with quiet laughter. A low, rolling chuckle that rose up from the soil itself. Birds that should have been silent at that hour burst into song. A dog that had never barked once in its life started laughing, an actual, unmistakable laugh, and did not stop. By the time she reached the edge of Ilesa, the whole village had woken to a sound they could not explain. Laughter, coming from the wells, from the thatched roofs, from the cooking fires. Not joyful laughter, relentless laughter, uncontrollable. People could not stop laughing long enough to draw water. Mothers laughed so hard they could not call their children in from the road. The market stalls tipped over as traders doubled over, gasping for air, between waves of it. Witchcraft, the village elders cried, though even they could not stop laughing long enough to finish the sentence. Yemisi's mother found her at the tree line, glowing eyes and all. Yemisi, what have you done? I am laughing, Mama, Yemisi said, and her voice echoed like three voices speaking together. Can you hear me now? For a moment, the laughter in the village slowed. Just a moment. But then Yemisi saw her three siblings pushing through the crowd toward her, and the old fury rose in her chest, and the ground began to shake with a new, harder wave of laughter, rolling out toward the village like a tide with teeth. Roof poles rattled loose. A cooking fire tipped and caught dry thatch. Somewhere, a child was laughing so hard she couldn't breathe. Yemisi had a choice. Let it break the village that had buried her, or pull it back inside and disappear again. She closed her eyes, thought of the spirit's warning, and swallowed the wave whole. The shaking stopped. The laughter softened into something almost gentle, then faded into ordinary morning quiet. Yemisi collapsed to her knees in the dirt, hollowed out, human again. Yemisi's mother carried her home. The whole village followed, ashamed and silent, in a way they had never been silent before. Inside the house, with the village elder kneeling by her mat, Yemisi finally told them everything. The wedding, the pit, her siblings' hands on her arms in the dark. Her mother turned to Tokumbo, Bisi, and Femi, with a face none of them had ever seen on her before. Tell me she's lying. None of them could. You buried your own sister, her mother said, because she cried at a wedding instead of laughing on command. She shamed us, Bisi said, but her voice had no strength left in it. She is your blood, her mother said, and you decided her pain was less important than what the village thought of you. The elder wanted to exile the three siblings on the spot. Yemisi stopped him. Exile is too easy, she said. They'll just go somewhere else and do it again to someone new. She stood, shaky but upright, and walked to where her siblings knelt in the dirt. She touched each of their foreheads in turn. For 1 year, she said, you will feel every joy you try to hide, crawling under your skin with nowhere to go. You will understand what it costs to smile and mean it and have no one believe you. She did not tell them it was the same curse the spirit had offered her. She let them find that out on their own. That night, Yemisi walked back to the quarry alone, against her mother's pleading. The spirit rose from the split stone to meet her. You kept your promise. How do I free you? Laugh for me, the spirit said. Real laughter, from the chest, not from the curse. No one laughed for me when I died. No one remembered there was anything in my life worth celebrating. If you can find something to laugh about, honestly, for my sake, I can finally rest. Yemisi thought about it for a long moment. Then she thought of her brother, teaching her to whistle when she was small. Before any of this, the good years, the real ones, and she laughed. A small, real, human laugh, with nothing forced and nothing magic in it. The spirit began to glow gold instead of gray. Thank you, she whispered, and dissolved into the morning air. The quarry went still. The glow left Yemisi's eyes. The power was gone, but something had replaced it. Not joy exactly. Something steadier. Peace. In the months that followed, Ilesa changed its oldest law. The elder stood before the whole village and said, "We built a tradition that punished people for grieving quietly and celebrating quietly. We measured love by volume. We were wrong. Joy is not always loud. Sometimes it is very, very quiet, and we must learn to look for it instead of demanding it." Yemisi's siblings served their year. When the curse lifted, they did not celebrate. They wept, for the first time in a long time, for what they had done. And when they were done weeping, they became gentler people, the kind who noticed the quiet ones in a room, instead of only the loud ones. As for Yemisi, she never became the loudest laugher in Ilesa, but she learned to let a small real laugh through when something actually deserved it. And that was enough. Not everyone's joy sounds the same. Some people smile with their whole face and never make a sound. Some people laugh only when they're completely alone, when no one can tell them they're doing it wrong. So the next time someone doesn't react the way you expect them to, don't call them cold. Don't call them broken. Ask them gently, "Are you okay in there?" And then actually wait for the answer. If this story reached something in you, share it with someone who's been quietly carrying more than they show. Hit like, subscribe for more stories like this one. And tell me in the comments, and your country too. I want to see my global family. Have you ever had to hide your joy or your grief because someone else decided it wasn't the right way to feel it? Your feelings are valid, whether anyone else can see them or not.